What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 92, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, aka the Muffin Mon, and today I'm joined just by Mr. Physical Copy himself, Ethan. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, it's good to be back on. I'm sad I missed Luke Lore last week, but I'm looking forward to talking about video games with you, Kevin.
Well, you had to go see Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'd say it was worth it from
Yeah,
our impressions on the spoiler cast, which is
check that
available
thing out.
now.
Longest spoiler cast we've done. It was a good conversation.
Yes, for sure. That was great. But if you like this podcast, we are live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here on YouTube. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on all your favorite podcast services. And while you're over there, we would love if you could drop us a review or a rating, whether that's on Apple or Spotify. If you leave us a 5-star review on Apple, we will read it live on the show. Blah, can't speak. Podcasting is hard. If you want to interact with us more, please come join our Discord. We're having some good discussions in there lately. The new members, the new people to the Discord, our patrons over there, really having some fun time. So come join the discussion. And if you want to support us more and get early access to all of Save the Game Media's content, like No Limits, Frame by Frame, I Hate My Friends, or this very show, head on over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media and choose the tier that's right for you, just like our current supporters did, Bucky Blue, Hopple, and Alpaca Tom. Thank you all very much for your support. We appreciate every single one of you. Now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, Ethan, we're going to begin the show as we do every week by going around the room and asking one simple question. That question is, what's your plan?
Yes, I have been playing a lot of Garden Story. This is a brand new indie title that, not brand new because it came out in 2021 for the Switch initially, but brand new to Xbox for the Game Pass. This is just a really cozy little indie title. It's really reminds me a lot of Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. If you remember that title that dropped, I think a couple months ago at this point, except there's a lot more sort of town building elements to this, and there's a lot more side quests and different things to do. I think it's a more fleshed out game. So I'm having an absolute blast with that. Other than that, really not a whole lot of gaming this week. It's been a lot of Stranger Things because I finally decided to hop on that train. So I binged about 3.5 seasons so far in the last week with my wife. So I only got a few more episodes of season 4. But yeah, so far this week, it's just been Garden Story, really. I haven't been on the Xbox much, unfortunately.
Now, I really liked Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion.
I did
I
too.
think I
Yeah.
think we discussed this, and when you say garden stories like that, it kind of makes me want to play it because I really enjoyed that game.
I think
My
you'd like
own, yeah, you think I'd like it?
I think you'd like it. I think
Does
it's a good little game.
does it run better than?
Yes, it runs fine. Like I said, this game originally came out in 2021 for the Switch, so any kinks that it might have had at launch, it's been fixed and stuff like that.
Okay.
So this is already a year old, but it's new to the Xbox ecosystem.
Dope. Okay, that's sweet. I might check that one out. I have a few things on the backlog, but I can always download it and play it later. It's on game. Beauty
Right.
of Game Pass, people. What a world, you know? We
Yeah,
can
yeah.
we can download games and play them at our leisure,
700
our leisure.
megabytes. It's not like it
Oh
would
my
take a while
lord.
anyways.
Let's
It's a tiny little game.
let's even the point. Let's even the point. Oh man. Yep. So I kind of feel the sentiment of not many games playing this week, to be honest. I've been busy with personal stuff and seeing the girlfriend a lot lately. We have a lot of stuff coming up. So
Oh,
July, would say, is actually the perfect month to have like a downtime for game releases because I don't feel
yeah.
like I'm missing out on all that much, which is good because I hate missing out on like big
Yeah.
games, not being able to play. Like if October hit and I was like, oh, every week I'm super busy, like multiple days, I can't turn on the Xbox, then I'd probably be pretty bummed because October is looking stacked as we discussed.
Yeah, it's a
But
busy summer. It's beautiful outside. It's hot. Go
oh,
to the
it's so
beaches, go to
hot.
the Great Escape, Kevin. You know what you're doing.
Great. Now everyone knows I am within driving distance of such location.
Nobody
Because
knows what that is.
yeah, nobody knows. It's a theme park around here. But I have played some games this week. All right.
Mm.
I checked out, and this is a PlayStation 5 game, Returnal, with
Oh,
our good buddy over on No Limits, Taylor, aka
okay.
TPR. So him and me were like, okay, let's play co-op. We download the game. I get on to play, and it took us 40 minutes to figure out how to play co-op on this game.
What?
Yeah, so we loaded up. It's like you Google everything. It's like, oh, you can't play co-op. To play co-op, go to this giant blue orb. And we're like, we cannot find this giant blue orb. And like the pictures were like, are we stupid? Are we missing something? And then we found more. So you have to die once and then co-op becomes unlocked. I'm like, okay, I'll
Oh,
run
okay.
in, find the first group of enemies, and I'll peace out real quick. So I let them kill me. Still no blue orb. At this point, I'm like, what's going on? This game's broken. Not a good look for my first experience.
No.
But then we figured out we had to get to a certain mini boss or something in the first run, die to them, then get a specific cutscene, and then we got the co-op, which I will say, I think the gameplay to Returnal is fantastic.
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun playing this game with Taylor. We played for about 2 hours, I would say, we put into it. We didn't get through a single biome. I think there's 4 or 5 biomes.
Yeah.
We didn't get through a single one. We wiped, I think, twice, and then we suspended. But man, the gunplay, the movement, the dashes, everything is immaculate. The enemies are actually terrifying because they do like good amount of damage. There's a bullet hell type element to it. And there were multiple times, and Taylor, you better mention this on No Limits, because I said, you got to talk about it, where Taylor got downed and I was running. I was like, you ain't getting me. I was sprinting away from all the enemies, and I'm like sniping them from a distance with a gun that is not a sniper, just
Now,
to be able to like go over and get him up.
now I'm surprised because doesn't this have a lot of roguelike elements to it? And
Full blown.
you are not a fan of those games. So I got to ask, what is it about this game that actually gets you into it? Is it the graphics actually look like a AAA game, or is it the co-op aspect?
Well, co-op definitely helps. I have
Right.
not turned this game on since him and I played it. And
Okay.
this is a game that I'm going to play. Like, I don't know if I'll ever beat this game, but this is a game I plan to play casually with him co-op.
Hmm.
Maybe eventually we get to the end. Who knows? I'm very much, and him and I were both agreeing on this while we were playing it. Gameplay wise, fantastic.
Yep.
Roguelite wise, the thing we thought might drag the experience down for us does kind of still do that. So
Okay.
those elements might be the reason, like if I stop playing, it's probably because of that. Because the game was challenging. I didn't find it like brutally challenging or like
Hmm.
unfair in any way. It was more the fact that like, oh, I have to run through the same corridor. And like,
Right.
oh, the door went to a different room, but the next room, like they just switched positions on the map because of like
Yeah.
procedural generation. So that is still there. That element of like repetitive feeling and not wanting to do the roguelite stuff is kind
Yeah.
of there. But gameplay wise, I did enjoy it. And like laughing with Taylor was a bunch of fun. So that's something I
Okay.
really did enjoy.
Sweet.
Um, Other than that, I played just a little bit of Ys 9 Monstrum Nox,
Oh, you're still going with that.
which is the sequel to Ys 8. Well, I beat Ys 8, all right? I beat Lacrimosa of Dana. Fantastic game, loved it. I'm about 3 chapters into this one, which is, I don't know, 3-4 hours. Slow start again. Apparently that's a theme in these games. But I think the art style is way cooler in this one, but the combat for some reason feels more sluggish. I don't know why. This is the newer one. Seems like they took a step back. Maybe it'll unlock as I progress. Like right now, we're limited in what you can do, but it's fine. I don't have much to say about that. The game I do want to talk about though,
Yeah.
and it's a game you're waiting to clear customs and come.
One day.
Yeah, it'll be here one day. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie Series.
Hmm.
I have beaten and 100%ed both of the Klonoa games in this collection. And I have some thoughts.
Okay.
Right off the bat, I think this game, the remaster, is fantastic because if you look at the actual like Klonoa, these two games back in the day, hideous, absolutely awful to look at. And I'm like, are these games from the 80s or like what is going on here? Um, so I think the remaster is great. I do think that the game is not what I expected it to be. And
Okay.
I was expecting more 3D platformer, and it is a platformer in some sense, but it is a lot puzzle game.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't, like, maybe I should have known that, but I didn't expect so many puzzles throughout it. And in Klonoa 1, it's not really that big of a deal. So when you're moving, you can't really, like, you can only go side to side.
So it's
But
2.5D
yes,
basically.
yeah, I think it's 2.5D would be a good way to describe it. I think the level design in 1 is fantastic because
Mhm.
you'll often have these intersecting pathways that if you are able to jump up, then it'll shift your camera view and you'll be able to go off and, like,
Oh.
towards the screen as opposed to, like, so I think the level design in 1 especially is really good. The puzzles aren't too hard. I think the story in both is a little kiddie nonsense. Like,
Yeah, a
it's a
little
3D platform.
platformer
Yeah, it's a 3D
from the
platformer.
90s.
Oh, from yeah, especially for the, so don't expect that. There's
Yeah.
no voice acting. The music is cute, but, like, you'll get sick of it. So I just threw something on to listen to.
Yeah.
Had a really good time with 1. The the collectibles are very easy in 1. So essentially in every level, there's 6 things you need to find, 6 stars. You shoot them, you collect them, you're good.
Mhm.
In 1, super easy, not hidden at all. In 2, it some levels are genuinely impossible. I had to look up where they were.
So 2 is the remake of the Wii remaster of the PlayStation game, right?
Is it Door to Phantomile is 1, which I
So
thought that was the Wii version.
yeah, I think Door. Let me relook it up because it's very confusing. Yeah, Klonoa Door to Phantomile, the first game of the Klonoa series, updated. Yeah,
Mhm.
so the Wii one was the first game.
Yes.
So the
So the
second
first
one is the straight PlayStation
Yeah,
game.
first one, great. First one I really, really liked. I had no qualms about it. Like, the final boss is pretty challenging. I beat it with literally, like, one sliver of my hearts left. I'm gonna say this. I played on easy. I don't even care because easy you get
Yeah,
unlimited
come on.
you get 5 hearts and unlimited lives. On normal, you get 3 lives, and I'm like, I ain't doing that.
Been playing video games for too long to be playing on hard. I don't got time for that.
I will say, once you collect all the collectibles in every level, you unlock an extra vision, which is maybe one of the hardest platforming challenges I've done in video games.
It's crazy
Because
to hear that from you.
so I haven't finished Sackboy's, like, ultimate crazy platforming challenge. I guarantee
Yeah.
you I will have an easier time doing that whenever I get around to it because this you would literally be like, okay, you're not going to touch the ground for the next 30 seconds. You got to hop from enemy to enemy, like, in the air. And the way
Like
he
some
does,
Cuphead stuff.
you don't jump on enemy heads in this one. You have to shoot them with a wind ring, and then that pulls the enemy towards you, and you can use the enemy to propel yourself upward.
Oh, wow.
So it was literally like jump, grab, immediately double jump to launch yourself with the other enemy for, like, 30-second intervals, climbing a tower. And it took me 20 something minutes, I think, was my final time. There are
Doing
people
the
that
same
speed run it.
mechanic over and over again.
My
Oh,
Oh, that's not even. So I beat that, went on to the second one. The second one, I don't know why, but they were like, what if we made the game more annoying? Let's hide the collectibles inside blocks. Let's let's make frame perfect interactions with enemies in order to reach said blocks. There was something I had to do today where I had to take an enemy, double jump with him, grab another enemy at the perfect frame, immediately double jump and blast through 3 blocks above me. This took me, no
wow.
lie, 20 minutes of going back and forth, grabbing it, and, like, it was infuriating.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, rage quitting platformers never really my thing, but this is getting me there. So final boss of that one way easier, but a joke. I don't know what the
Mhm.
game had some challenging levels. The final boss was a joke. It does add what I thought was sweet was hoverboard levels where you're, like, riding, like, those are really cool levels. Well done on those.
Mhm.
It also gives you there's 2 bonus levels in Klonoa 2. One is super easy, and then the other is supposed to be the hard one, and it's still 100 times easier than the first one.
Yeah.
Like, my word. It's called House or Chamber of Horrors, And I was like, this ain't nothing. Like, I beat the Extra Vision in Klonoa 1. Still hurt my thumbs after I was done because,
Yeah.
again, you have to do basically the same thing, just not as brutal, where you're like hovering in the air for long periods of time. But
Imagine playing it on the PlayStation 1. Oh,
man,
boy.
I have no idea, especially on the Wii. I don't know what they were doing on the Wii with this game, but really good. I'm glad I 100%ed it. Not that hard. You just have to collect everything and then beat all the levels. That's literally all you have to do. And the collectibles
Straightforward, yeah.
for the majority are very easy. It did have it says 25. You only have to get 24 achievements because the 25th is collect all the other achievements. And I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. So I'm done with Klonoa, and now I get to move on to my friend Peppa Pig, as voted by our patrons over on patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia, where if you're at the Make Me Suffer tier, you can vote for a game.
Suffer tier.
I changed it every 2 months. Every 2 months, okay? If that sounds appealing, you can pick a game. You can even suggest games to go in the poll. And every 2 months, I will put up a little poll. You can tell me what game you want me to suffer through for the next 2 months. You'll get an exclusive Patreon-only video review of the game. All right? I'm going to do that all for you.
Elden Ring Patreon supporters. Let's get it.
If you vote, well, the idea is it's supposed to be Game Pass or PS Plus, so I don't have to like ship out money for it. But if Elden Ring comes to one of those servers,
let's hope Bloodborne one day maybe comes.
Demon Souls is on PS
Demon
Plus.
Souls. All right, we got it. We got them, guys. We got them.
Demon Souls on PS Plus. So if you want me to suffer through that, maybe sign up and suggest it for the next poll that's coming out. Yeah, you're telling me. But that's all I've been playing this week. So why don't you stay seated and I'll read this week's stories.
Don't gotta tell me twice.
Where did my document go? There it is. Story number 1. And we're going to have a bigger discussion, but I want to introduce the topic. It's because Ubisoft has announced they are decommissioning games, as they call it. They said starting on September 1st, 2022, they would be decommissioning a handful of games that include Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 3, Brotherhood, Liberation HD, Revelations, Far Cry 3, Rayman Legends, and more. What this means essentially is if you go to Ubisoft's support page, it says that online functionality for these games will be shut down and, quote, the installation and access to DLC will be unavailable for the majority of the games listed. In the case of Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, it was shown on Steam for some times that users who actually purchased the title would lose access to that game. Ubisoft has since corrected this and said it was a messaging error. But Ethan, I have more to discuss with you about this. I want to get your initial thoughts. Ubisoft taking away the online functionality for older games and DLC.
Totally fine with them shutting down multiplayer servers. That's something that happens to all games. It happened to Halo 3, I think, last year, and we had that really sad time. We saw the TikTok videos of everyone getting back online. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to do that, but multiplayer games, they come with that knowledge that one day you're not going to be able to play multiplayer again unless a company does something like 343 did with the Master Chief Collection, which usually doesn't happen. So not really worried about that. The removal of DLCs, though, that gets me pretty heated. And obviously, we're going to get into it after you do your second part of this story. But yeah, that part kind of upset me a little bit because I do own multiple DLCs for Far Cry 3 and right here, Assassin's Creed Revelations, Assassin's Creed 3, Brotherhood. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan, especially the older ones. And of course, I bought all the DLC for them. So it's interesting now that I don't have access to those anymore. At least, is this Steam specific, actually?
No.
So this is for everybody.
This applies to everyone. All consoles are going to lose access to the online functionality and DLC. All right. My issue, much like you, I'm completely okay with them shutting down servers because they have the statistics. They can look at, is anyone playing Brotherhood online? Really?
There's no reason to keep servers up for 20 people.
Exactly. Statistically, it probably doesn't make sense for them to invest in those. But the fact that they then go on to say, even if you purchased DLC for these games, single player DLCs, you can no longer play that.
Yeah.
That is unacceptable, right? Like, I know they retracted the Steam thing, we're losing access to a whole game, but what really is the difference here?
Right.
Because DLCs can only be purchased digitally these days, where back in the day you actually had DLC that was on discs. I don't know
Yeah,
if
it
you
was
remember
cool.
that
Yep.
The Halo 2 map pack
Yes, it
expansion
was.
was all on. I had it. You would put that in, it would install to
Yep.
your system, and then you could play on the Halo 2 disc.
Mhm.
So the fact that we've moved past that Xbox 360 and beyond, we've had digital only DLC. So you
Right.
download that, it's on your account, you've paid for it, it's single player, and now they're saying, sorry, you're not going to be able to re-download that. What
Yeah.
is the difference? Because they're not taking away full games. Why can't the DLC stay up? I just fail to understand the logic there.
And the other thing about DLC, especially back during the Xbox 360 era, is a lot of time those DLC would add story content that had implications for the remainder of the series. So these aren't just like little add-ons like, let's say, Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Odyssey, where it's just kind of side adventures that you could do without. These are actually story elements that tell the story of the character in these games. So this is kind of just stripping away a entire chunk of the video game.
Mhm. And it's very interesting because some games they just said like, oh, to play the game, if it's an always online game, you have to put your console in offline mode, and then you can still play single player. But to
Mhm.
me, why can't you do that with the DLC that thing then? If connectivity to the online service is the issue, then just tell them you can play the DLC in offline mode.
I will tell you why I think they're doing it in the next section, because there's something that lines up with them doing this
Mhm.
that happened recently. So we'll get into it once you get to the next part of the story for sure.
Well, it's Kyle Baxter points up, says some of the early Assassin's Creed game, like Assassin's Creed 2, add two missing memory sequences to the game
Yep.
with the DLC. I assume that's what he was implying. Which again goes back to my point. These are single player games for the
Right.
most part. And DLC just acts like another game, right? Like it just installs into part of your file. I
In this
don't
day and age, there's DLC that are basically entire video games. You look at
Outriders World Slayer just came
World
out
Slayer. Yep.
$40.
Let's look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla Ragnarok. That's an entire game in and of itself. I mean, that's probably a 35 hour Assassin's Creed game right there. I mean, these are full games that you could be taken away from us in the future. I don't
Mhm.
know.
No, which that's a good point. So in 10 years, are they going to put out an announcement and say we're decommissioning
Exactly.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla Ragnarok
That I
expansion?
paid 30,
You
I think it was
you
$40 for it.
you can play the base game still, but for some reason the DLC you can't.
That's like telling me that I can't play with Oblivion with the DLC. You're going to make me play Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion vanilla? Get out of here. Stop it.
It's just a very confusing situation to me. I would like some more clarity from Ubisoft about exactly why DLC. I understand not purchasing DLC anymore. That's fine. If you don't want to pay to keep it up on the storefront, go through the hassle of like the payment processing, whatever you have to give Microsoft, that's completely fine. But the fact that the files can exist on your system is very confusing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm gonna, again, I have a theory for this, and I
Mhm.
think I'm right. So we'll get into it after you go
Well,
through the next part.
it's Kyle again brings up, how is this not just a slippery slope to removing the
I
game
will talk
entirely?
about that. I will
Which
talk about
that's
that.
it's where we're going. So we'll
Yeah.
introduce my next talking point, because this is not the first time in recent memory we have seen access to digital games being removed. At the end of 2021, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 were delisted from the store on Xbox, at least. The remastered port versions of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 have also been removed for digital sale when Activision lost the license, and Nintendo PlayStation have been shutting down online storefronts left and right. Ethan,
Yep.
I'm throwing it to you as our resident Mr. Physical Copy. And obviously I have some retorts, but I want to know,
Yeah.
is the digital future something we need to be worried about with these recent events?
So first of all, in the story about Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, those games are coming back soon. They were able to
Mm,
change out the I don't know if they renewed the license for the imaging that they used, or if they just changed the game entirely so that they could re-release it on digital storefronts. Not sure, but from what I saw, they are coming back with those eventually. I don't think they have a specific time when they're doing that. But in terms of this whole digital and physical debate, and I think these are all warning signs. We're starting to creep into the era where we're shutting down digital marketplaces. You know, we had the whole debacle with the Wii shop and the 3D or the DSi shop not too long ago, where the shops were down for 2 months. Like, for example, Klonoa, the game you just played, if you had purchased Klonoa back in 2009 when it first came to the Wii on the Wii shop app, you couldn't access it anymore for those 2 months. And now they're selling you this remastered version. So they're basically taking something, a piece of your property that you purchased, and saying, hey, we'll just sell it back to you. And that's unacceptable. And here's where I'm going to get into the Assassin's Creed thing, because this is exactly what Ubisoft just did. So let's talk about the Ezio collection that just came out, I believe, last year on some consoles, on most consoles, and this year on Switch.
Yeah.
So the Ezio collection consists of Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations. Those are the whole stories around Ezio Auditore, one of the assassins that's a major player in the Assassin's Creed storylines. Of course, the Ezio collection comes with all of the solo campaign DLCs. So if you were like me and you played Assassin's Creed growing up and you bought all the games and all the DLC and played through them, essentially what Ubisoft just did is they went in, took your property, and now they're offering you a $60 game that you can regain your property and play these solo DLC. And this is a warning sign for the future, I think. This is why I continue to buy physical media, because at the end of the day, Tales of Arise, for example, this disc, I put it in my Xbox, it installs on my Xbox, I can play it whenever I want. Kevin, you love Tales of Arise, you played through it. Eventually, one day, Bandai Namco could pull support from that game, and you could not have access to it. And I know a lot of people have been joking about people like me who say physical media, like Jared Petty, people give him shit because he loves physical media and stuff like that. But the warning signs are there. It's happening with the Wii shop. It happened with the DSi shop. And we're slowly creeping into the 360 and PS3 generation where things are shutting down and being taken away from us. And that to me is unacceptable. And then when you have Ubisoft, who is a company that usually starts bad trends along with EA, sorry, Ubisoft and EA, I had to do it to you. NFTs, all that stuff. When you have these companies that are basically taking your property that you purchased and saying you can't access it anymore, and then repackaging it and trying to sell it back to you, that's a problem. And when they see that people aren't going to stand up against that, they're going to keep doing it and pushing further and further until they get to the actual games themselves. So that's why I continue to buy physical media copies. Unfortunately, we're moving away from that too, in that, like, for example, Halo Infinite didn't even have the whole game on it. Far Cry 6 had like 700 megabytes of the game on it. And it's getting scary. Essentially, when you purchase a physical copy now for a lot of games, all you're doing is buying a key to download a digital game. And that's really scary to me. And I don't think that should be the norm. Nintendo is still the only company that actually allows you to own your video games, because they still come in cartridges. Since the friggin' 80s, they've been having these cartridges. I got Ocarina of Seasons right here for the Game Boy Color.
Good choice.
They've been doing this forever, and I can pop Metroid Prime into my Switch for the rest of time, and I can play
Metroid
this.
Dread, but I understand
whatever.
What you're talking about.
But I have a lot more games for Switch, but I'm just saying you can pop this in at any time and play for the rest of your life for as long as you want, as long as you have the consoles. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where I pop in Tales of Arise on the Series X and I can't play it, and that's not an acceptable future for me.
So my retort to that is kind of, it's Kyle brings it up. He says, but I can still download the games. They're just removed from purchasing, which I think is the key difference. In the future,
Not the DLC.
No, yeah, which exactly DLC. I don't know why, and that's where I want more clarity from Ubisoft. Why can purchased DLC not be re-downloaded, but purchased games can be? What is the difference there to Ubisoft?
And that's the scary thing, is there really isn't any difference.
Which is where I want to talk to you, because I understand your concern, and as a mostly all digital gamer, because my Xbox is all digital, my PlayStation 3 or my PlayStation 5, not PlayStation 3. I don't have PlayStation 3. PlayStation 5 is all digital. I only have the digital version. Even if I got a PS5 disc, I can't do anything with it. And I went to the digital marketplace because, to me, it's about convenience,
right,
which is easier. It's about having all my games tied to an account. They can never be damaged. They can never be lost, because my account is there. And if I don't violate any terms of service. Obviously, there's caveats here, but in general, if I am an upstanding citizen on the gaming networks, my account is going to be preserved, and I'll have all my content
Well,
going
save
forward.
any outside activities
With
that happen with the
yeah,
company and stuff like that.
yes, exactly. Nintendo is one that I continue to buy physical for because Nintendo has not shown me that they respect digital purchases. There is not a single generation of Nintendo games where you buy a digital game and it carries over to the next generation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is for me, if the Switch comes out and it says, "Hey, going forward, we're going to respect your previous purchases, whatever the next version of their console is, and all the Switch games work on it," great. Maybe then I will reevaluate my relationship with physical and digital in Nintendo's ecosystem. But PlayStation has shown me that, hey, we're going to respect PlayStation 4 games, PlayStation 5. We're bringing back some older games with a new service. We're putting PSP, PS1, PS2 games up for standalone purchase that going forward you'll be able to play. That to me shows me they're going to respect my digital purchases. Xbox has been doing this for years now, since their 360.
Xbox has been good.
Yeah, to me, that is faith enough that I'm like, okay, I can invest in this digitally. My caveat and my fear now that Ubisoft is taking this approach is, what if there's no difference and they can just say, even if you bought it, we're not going to let you download it anymore.
And that's what I'm saying is we should fear publishers more than we fear the hardware manufacturers. The hardware manufacturers like Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they want the games on their marketplace, obviously, because they want to sell games to people and people to use their consoles. We need to be worrying about publishers that can pull these from the market at any time at their leisure and then repackage them and try and resell them again. Klonoa, if you are a huge Klonoa fan, you've been sold that game 3 times in one lifetime, the same
I've
game.
never played Klonoa. So like them, I completely understand the repackaging and reselling of like remasters. Remakes are a big thing, especially these days. I
Yeah.
completely have accepted that like certain games are lost on certain consoles, right? Like you're not going to be able to you kids still have those consoles, but majority of newer gamers are going to have the newest console, right? Like
Right.
kids growing up these days are going to want the newest consoles. They're not going to go back and get a PlayStation 2. So to me, remasters, remakes to introduce people to these
Totally fine.
franchises,
Yeah.
completely fine. I draw the line at them saying, if you own it, you can't download it anymore. And right now nobody's done that as far as I know, where they say if you've purchased it, you can't download it. Because even with the games I mentioned, like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like my brother
Nintendo did it for 2 months.
Did they do it?
The Wii shop and the DSi shop were down for 2 months, and then they brought it back because
Even if you owned the games, you couldn't download them?
So originally they said in 2019 that we're shutting down purchases for the Wii shop and the DSi. And then you could still download games that you purchased, but then there was a 2-month period where all the servers shut down. There was no communication from Nintendo. They don't know if they shut them down for maintenance. They don't know if they shut them down, because there was a glitch or a problem with the servers. No, there was no communications. I think they're back up now, if I remember correctly, and you can still download those. But guess what? It's not going to last forever. They're going to take that right away from you. It's going to happen eventually. Nintendo's not going to keep the Wii shop open forever. Okay. So Nintendo is going to start doing this.
Nintendo's one that I'm certainly scared of, like any digital purchases. Like if you're going to keep your consoles, it's not that big of a deal because you can always go back to them. And well, hopefully, unless there's a little situation there. But in my mind, Xbox and PlayStation aren't going anywhere, right? Like these are two companies that are always going to persist.
They said that about the Dreamcast, Kevin.
And that's kind of like it seems so foreign, the concept that they could go anywhere, because it's been so long and they seem so invested. Right. And I think that is one of the reasons, and that now I'm going to kind of shift course, why I'm in favor of subscription services, things like Game Pass, things like PlayStation Plus, because on those services, I buy in knowing I don't own this game. I get to experience the game. And if they decide to take it out of the catalog, that's their choice, because I've never owned anything. I'm paying for the experience to be able to play a plethora of games. So for me, a future where everything is in a subscription service isn't a bad thing for me because I'm more interested in the experience. I don't particularly care if I own the game. I more care that I'm able to experience the game when I want. So if you're telling me that in the future we have two subscription services and everything is in one or the other, that sounds like a
Okay.
wonderful role
If
to
we're
me.
talking about everything, like I'm
Yes,
talking about
this is a
everything,
dream scenario, right?
yeah, then that sort of makes sense. But obviously, that's not going to be the case. We're never going to have a Netflix scenario with all of gaming where, every video game that comes out is coming to one of these subsurfaces services. So I mean, to that point, I get Game Pass. I love Game Pass. I use it all the time. I get it that it's digital. I don't own those games. It's fun. It's good for games like Garden Story, like little indie games. Like I don't want to clog up my shelf with 500 indie games a year. It's
And
great
a
for
lot
little
of those
things
you
like
can't
that.
because they don't get physical
They don't
releases.
get physical releases, right? So that's fun in and of itself. But I mean, what's going to happen 10 years down the road when you want to experience that game again, and you're not going to be able to unless you have bought a copy. And it's the same thing with the digital releases. If one day you lose access to that, then what happens when you want to show your kids one day that you want to play? What if I want to play Wii Sports with my kids and show them what I grew up playing or something? I mean, that's kind of sad.
Kids, sit around. I want to tell you the story of Marvel's Avengers.
Well, it's funny, but I mean, at one point, we're going to have to face the issue of digital rights management, of digital ownership. We're going to have to face that issue because these servers aren't going to last forever. Like these systems and these digital copies of games, they're not going to last forever. The licenses are going to lapse. Trademarks are going to lapse. All these things are going to lapse, and eventually, there are going to be games that you invested heavily into that you're not going to be able to access anymore. It's just a future that's going to happen.
But those things should only affect purchasing, though, right? As far my understanding is licensing and stuff only affects purchasing. Like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like I said, you can still download those remastered ports if you bought them. Now, that does play into a whole different discussion of access to games
And
because
video game preservation.
yes, because if games are taken off, if you can no longer buy a game, is it like, does it exist essentially at that point in time? It
Not
exists for the
really.
select few that have it, but if it's no longer purchasable, if you can no longer go out and find it anywhere, then
Right.
it doesn't really exist. And I think that's why we're seeing a giant spike in like retro game collecting, the price of retro games, because there is a limited number of certain older games on these consoles, right? Like
Yeah.
people don't have copies of the black box Final Fantasy 7 laying around, right? Like you find that at a garage sale, you like grab it. You're like, "Oh yeah, you want $10 for it?" Like you don't know what you got here.
And it's because people at that time they didn't look at the big picture of these things and they didn't care for things. And now they're looking back and going like, damn it, I really wish I actually kept. I think that all the time with my old Nintendo 64. I used to have like 30 N64 cartridges. I don't have that anymore. And it
Mhm.
sucks. Every time I think of it, I would love to play some of my old games, if I had just kept those things. But now I go on and I try and find an N64 and GoldenEye 007. I got to pay like $100. That's ridiculous.
That's cheap compared to a lot of the retro game. I can't remember the retro game. I thought I'm gonna say it was Skies of Arcadia for the GameCube. I think me and Ryan Turford
Oh,
looked it up. It's
GameCube.
going
Yeah.
it's going for like $600.
Oh my goodness.
And I
That's
was like,
nuts.
never even heard of this game, and it's going for $600. It's
Yeah.
nonsense. We kind of have a question that ties into this. If you want me to bring in our patron Hopple
Yeah.
over there, because he says, "What 360 games would you like to see again on Games of Gold before October?" And they stop offering 360 games. This kind of ties into the digital ownership of games, bringing back some games due to licensing. Because my answer is one that isn't going to happen because of licensing, because it's no longer offered in a digital marketplace, and that's Kingdom Under Fire: Circle of Doom.
Mm.
I loved the Kingdom Under Fire series. I actually have the two that are available on Steam on my wish list. Apparently they're on sale right now, so if you want it for $10, you can. I'm thinking about it, but this game I never got the chance. I didn't play it on the 360. I missed out on this one.
Mhm.
I would love if somehow this game ended up in Games of Gold and I was able to claim it and have it be in my digital library forever. I'm going to use air quotes here
Yeah.
because, that's the discussion we were just saying. So I want this because it's one that I missed out on, and I currently have no way to play it unless I go get an Xbox 360. I go track down a copy of this game, which I have no idea how much this game is going for. If you want to give me your choice, I can look it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one that I remember very fondly as a kid. I actually got this game through GameFly back in the day. If you remember what GameFly was, it was the subscription service before Game Pass. It was like a quarter a game or something like that, and they would mail it to you. You'd play. It's what Netflix used to be. You know, they'd mail you the disc. You mail it back after you're done with it. It was Mercenaries 2: World in Flames. Not a lot of people know about this game. It was an open world kind of crazy action game where you're this mercenary in this jungle and you're dealing with like 4 or 5 different factions, and you know you got to manage them. You can make friends with. There's actually a lot of really cool gameplay mechanics that were kind of ahead of its time, but it is a game from 2000. What is it? 13. 8. Oh wow, I don't know why I thought 13. 2008. So it's a quite an old 360 game, and I would love to play it again. I think it's still available on the. Actually, you know what? I did look this up a couple months ago. It's not available for digital purchase. So I think the same thing with you is I can't play this game anymore because I don't have my physical copy, or it might be at my parents' house. I don't remember, but
You know, first of all, the Kingdom Under Fire Circle of Doom, you can get it for about $10. So honestly, pretty good deal. Like,
yeah,
but the fact that I have to go get a 360 is really what's holding me back there. All right, because
yeah.
getting a whole new console for just one game that I
Still
missed
got my
out
old
on,
360. Love it.
especially when like if they could just make it backwards compatible, but they can't because Xbox already announced that program's dead. Um, we just saw this with what's that game that they're Soul Calibur 1 and 2.
Ooh,
You can buy 360 codes for these games on Amazon right now, but you can't buy it on the Xbox store. They're
yeah.
delisted on the Xbox store, but they're still backwards compatible. So it is one of those things that's like it's so weird that there are certain games like you can only get certain marketplaces, codes will work, codes won't work. It really man, it's getting confusing out here. What games are going to be
And
preserved, what games aren't going to be
And
preserved.
we're only seeing the beginnings of it. We're seeing it starting to creep into the 360 and PS3 era, and that's really getting people's goats because I feel like a lot of gamers started their journey being gamers in that era, especially as kids. So to see that, and it's eventually going to creep into Xbox One and PS4 probably 10 years from now, it's really going to start ramping up and people are going to get upset. And it's really an issue that we need to face as a community because we should be able to own the games that we have purchased and we should have access to games, that we grew up with if we want to buy them or something like that. And it's been interesting to see the evolution of physical media. Like, obviously, it started with cartridges where it
Mhm.
just, that was part of the system. Once you plugged it in, it was a circuit card and you could play it right away. Thank God Nintendo still does that. We moved to laser discs, compact discs, all this stuff. And now, basically, this is either modern times, you're either an installation disc or you're a key to get an online download. And
Mhm.
eventually, games are just going to get bigger and bigger until physical
Is
media is not really going to be an option and we're forced to use a digital platform.
is there any way of I don't know because I don't buy physical discs for like Xbox or PlayStation. Is there any way of
Mhm.
knowing ahead of time what's actually on the disc? Like could
You
people
usually got to wait until people get their hands on
no,
it and they
that's
see
so
the download.
annoying.
Like, actually, I think, for example, Tales of Arise, since I have the $70 Series X optimized version, the whole game is on this disc, all 50 something gigabytes. So I can pop this in offline, install it with the disc, and play it whenever I want. So this is a good physical copy. This is a good game to have because now I
Great
own
game.
this and
Great game to
can
have.
trade it with people. I can let somebody borrow it, et cetera, et cetera. But with Halo Infinite, like we talked about, had almost nothing on the damn disc. It's just a key. It's
Mhm.
nothing. So, that's going to become the norm with a lot of these companies because, again, games are getting huge and you don't want to throw 3 or 4 discs into the same packaging like they used to do back during the 360 area with like GTA 5 and Mass Effect 2 and stuff like that.
And you know who this really affects the transition to and I know we're going a little long on this topic, but it is something I think is pretty important to discuss.
Yeah.
Um, you know who's really affected by this is people without access to high quality internet or people with
Yep.
data caps. Because say they went and like, oh, I'm really excited to get the new Halo. They grab the disc, find out they have to install the 70 gigabytes from their internet. What if they're at their cap? What if their download speeds are 5 megabytes per like the fact that they can't download it from the disk is kind of insane to me. Where even though I prefer digital and I don't buy disc anymore, I still think the entire game should be on the disc. I think if not for anything more than providing those people with access.
Yeah, and if you don't put the whole game on the disc, then what are you doing? You're wasting resources. You're just generating garbage for the environment. There's no reason to make a disc if you're not going to put the whole damn game on it, and it can't become a collector's thing. Like, I actually looked up a stat which was really interesting to me. Last year there was a study done, and they actually analyzed all the homes in America, and 1 in 4 homes don't even have internet. Kevin,
That doesn't surprise me.
25% of Americans live without, maybe not a full 25% of the population, but 1 in 4 homes just don't have internet. I mean, most of those people probably aren't gamers, to be honest. Most of them are probably elderly people that don't really care about the internet and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're still restricting right off the bat 25% of people that live in this country, and then on top of the people that have slow internet that live in rural areas and stuff like that. So,
well, there are areas around where I live, and I live in the capital of New York State, really, like generally outside it, but
in the metropolitan area.
In the metro, like there are people around me who I work with that say we don't have internet in my house, and my answer is, how do you live? How do you like where do you live? First of all, that you don't have internet.
Yeah,
because she's always saying like, oh I have to buy my kids physical Switch games because I was like, oh, do they play Smash online? I was gonna like, she's like, oh, we don't have internet. And I'm like, that is insane to me. The fact that like, and someone just told me that they were, one of my friends where I used to live literally just moved, and he said, I don't have internet, so I'm trying out this what the Elon Musk Skylink thing or whatever.
Yeah, the Skylink.
Yeah. And I was like, where did you move?
That's bringing internet to a lot of those people. That can pretty much go anywhere. So, the future is bright for internet access in general. So I don't think that will necessarily be a huge problem. I think the crux of this problem, though, lies with digital ownership and the rights of somebody who purchases an object. You shouldn't. What Ubisoft just did is like if IKEA just came into your house and took your 3-year-old table and brought it back to Sweden, sanded it down, putting a new coat of paint on it, putting some new lacquer on it, and then bring it back and saying, give me $40 and you can have it back. It's not acceptable
because they're not taking down access to this stuff in the remastered version of some of those games.
No, they want you to buy the new thing, the Ezio collection. That's what I'm saying. That's how they're doing it.
It's fine, but it clearly showed like the DLC thing. I don't understand. Like, I can't get over that point. I need them to clarify. And maybe they will next week or at some point, but why can't you play the DLC you already purchased?
And you know what? People call me an alarmist and all that stuff. And this is what EA did
bring up fair points.
This is what EA did with microtransactions. They tested the waters, saw how much gamers would tolerate, realized that they can go full-blown microtransactions, and now damn near every game has microtransactions in it. Okay, so this is just testing the waters. This is Ubisoft saying, how much can we get away with, and reselling things that people already bought and taking away their rights to actually use what they bought. And if they see that gamers can tolerate it and we're okay with it, it's going to get bigger and bigger until somebody tells them to stop. And I don't think it should happen at all. If DLC is the limit, fine. I just don't take away my games, for crying out loud. Ridiculous.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. If any company is going to be the one to be like, oh, sorry, you can't play this game anymore, it'll probably be Ubisoft or EA.
I'm pretty sure it's been Nintendo already. Or it's probably Nintendo's going to be the one that does it first.
Nintendo kind of gets a pass for these types of things, unfortunately, because their purchases can't carry over, which is tends to be the deciding factor. But for sure, we'll see what happens. I do want to give a shout out to Lady Mythicals, who is on the Twitter or the Twitch chat. Thank you. Haven't seen your name before, so thank you for stopping by.
A rare Twitch viewer. We love it.
I know. I love
Everyone's
to see
on
it.
YouTube.
Love to see it. We'll move on to our second story of the day, Ethan. After I think we've thoroughly covered that one. This could probably go on for literally another hour talking about physical and digital, but
different games sitting here that I was gonna it's too much.
But Xbox Series X and S have surpassed 250,000 units sold in Japan. The Series family of consoles continues to sell well compared to previous generations of Xbox in the region and have just hit a major milestone, 250,000 units sold. For comparison, the Xbox One sold a meager 114,000 during its entire lifespan.
That's
So
awesome.
that's I mean, listen, I've preached before about how Xbox is really committed to the Japanese market this generation. They're
Yeah.
making moves by getting Japanese focused games. Tales of Arise, as you were just holding up, Scarlet Nexus. We've seen them getting AI the Somnium Files,
Yep.
Danganronpa. They're getting more Japanese focused games into Game Pass onto the platform. They're investing even more with Wulong Fallen Dynasty from Team Ninja that we saw
Yep.
at the showcase. Persona, all the Persona games coming over,
Woo.
huge. Hideo Kojima. I made a whole video about why I think Xbox is ready and set to
So
really
exciting.
pop off in Japan this generation, and the fact that they've more than doubled their lifetime sales already with this new generation of consoles. I was on Jam Pack Sam's exhibition podcast a few weeks ago, and him and I were talking about like what would you consider a success in the Japanese market for Xbox. And I said, if they can hit 1 million units in the Xbox Series family this generation, I would consider that a
Wow.
success
Nuts.
because
Yeah.
they haven't gotten anywhere close with, I think the 360 did 1.3 or something. So like they sold over 1 million with the 360, but that was their best generation ever where they had exclusive like Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey. If they can hit that mark, I think that signals that Xbox is making big gains in the Japanese market.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge news. You love to see it, and I mean, not only the implications of obviously Xboxes might get more deals with companies like Bandai Namco, companies like wow, I'm completely blanking. Guardians of the Galaxy, Square Enix,
Square,
Jesus.
well, not anymore, but
Yeah,
yes.
not anymore, but you know what I mean. And I think the other cool thing about this is we're getting so many people that live in Japan into the Xbox ecosystem, and that's just going to inspire more developers to work with Xbox and want to put their games on this platform. You know, and also you're going to have people growing up in Japan that are going to be in the Xbox ecosystem, and they're going to one day grow up to be video game developers, and they're going to have that love for Xbox in their hearts, and they're going to want to work with Xbox. So obviously, getting the consoles out there, getting people in the ecosystem, making people realize how fun it is to be a part of the Xbox community. That's just a plus. And to do it in Japan, which is probably one of the greatest places in the world to make video games, you know, make some of the greatest video games ever. Pretty much the inventors of video games. I mean, that's just it, that's the motherland for video games. We need to put our consoles there. It's going to be great.
I don't like to, compare sales figures. Obviously, PlayStation 5 is still by and
Yeah,
far outselling them in Japan, but
of
that's not
course.
what we're talking about here. We're not doing the console war nonsense.
No.
I'm comparing Xbox to Xbox and showing progression there through their generations because
Yeah.
Xbox One completely was like, Japan, we don't care about you. We're not going to invest in your games. And it was a
Yeah.
very depressing time to be a
Uh,
fan of JRPGs, especially on that console. I don't think we can underestimate the power of cloud gaming and the effect
yes.
that that is having. I would
Samsung TVs.
I
Wow.
would love if Xbox gave us a region by region breakdown of like who's using cloud, who's in the Game
That would
Pass,
be
because
interesting. Yeah.
I guarantee Japan is more interested in cloud gaming because they like mobile gaming more than
Yeah.
console gaming these days. They don't like having things taking up their space. It's a different
Right.
culture over there. They're very mobile, on the go. It's a whole different lifestyle than
Yeah.
what we have here in the West, where we're
Minimalist culture. They don't want
yeah,
a bunch of clutter.
yeah. So if you can play on your phone, if you can play on a TV that you probably already have, which I just looked up what the most popular brand of television is in Japan. It's Sony. I should have known that.
Yeah.
But I guarantee Samsung TVs are in that market. And I guarantee you Samsung is not the last television provider that we see this Xbox cloud gaming deal
I
with.
bet you it's coming to Sony eventually.
It's
Sony TVs.
I
Yeah.
know Sony makes PlayStation. That might be the only reason they're against it. But even
Those are
them,
two different parts of the company, though.
I think they can recognize a good deal when they see it.
Yeah.
So Xbox making the deal, get our Game Pass Cloud app on Sony TVs, get them on
Right.
the TCLs, Roku, Fire, like it's happening. It's gonna happen, and that's going to be something like, oh, I don't need an Xbox console. Game Pass is great. I can play through cloud. It just appeals more to the Japanese market. And I think that's really with their new investment in the Japanese style games going to pay dividends, and it is. We're seeing it. I know Xbox has had really good sales for multiple weeks now that people keep saying they just hit this milestone of 250,000. It's popping off, and I want to say that even when the Hideo Kojima announcement can't be understated, because other Japanese developers and publishers are gonna be like, yo, they got Kojima on board. We gotta hit up this Microsoft. We gotta
We
hit
got
up
to be with
Xbox.
them. It's where it's happening right now.
Because he's an icon over there, right? Like
Yeah.
he is an enigma.
Yeah. And then also we have to highlight PC Game Pass because PC gaming is huge in Japan and China as well. You know, PC Game Pass can reach really deep into that Asian market and really bring a lot more people into the fold of this ecosystem. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. I think we're going to see a lot more JRPGs come to Xbox, and I'm here for it. I'm so excited to get all the Atlas titles on there, not just Persona, you know, anything from Atlas throw on Game Pass and stuff like that. I mean, these are really big gets that we're getting, and just to see the sale numbers go up in Japan just tells me that we have a bright future going forward in getting these games into the ecosystem.
And what I like before we move on to our third story is that at least in the spaces that we're in, right, the podcast scene and the gaming online Twitter space,
Right.
people are supporting Japanese games when they come to Xbox. They're
Yeah.
going out. They're excited for Persona. They're excited for the new Wolong. Like they're just excited. There's an air. I know so many people that picked up Tales of Arise on Xbox instead of other platforms. So it's just an exciting time. I want to give a shout out to Mika in the Twitch chat. We got another Twitch viewer. Thanks for stopping by. Glad you're
No.
here. Happy to have you. If anyone's watching on YouTube, yes, we do have a Twitch channel. It is twitch.tv/save the game media. You can go over there, drop us a little follow as we grow over
Whatever
on that
you want.
platform as well. Or you can come over to YouTube at youtube.com/save the game media. And we're almost to we're about 50 away from 500 subscribers on YouTube. So
Yeah.
we'd love if you can get us there. We're pushing for 1,000.
Almost there.
We had some really good growth since this rebrand. I'm really happy about the impact and the reception we've had so far. So thank you guys so much for that. We can transition to story number 3 though.
All right.
And you might have something to say about this because Supermassive Games has been acquired. The consolidation of the gaming industry continues with an unexpected acquisition. Supermassive Games, the team behind Until Dawn, the Dark Pictures anthology, and recent hit The Quarry, has been acquired by Nordisk Games. Nordisk isn't a name you're probably familiar with, but Supermassive will join a group of 7 other developers, with only one really being of note, and that is Avalanche Studios, who brought you games such as Just Cause, Mad Max, and are currently developing the Xbox exclusive Contraband. So, Ethan, you played The Quarry, you loved it. Supermassive now has been acquired. How you feeling?
Yeah, Until Dawn, The Quarry, those are games I absolutely love. Supermassive are really good at making these horror games. I absolutely love them. I like you said, I don't really know much about Nordisk Games, but when you talk about Just Cause and Contraband, you know, you can see that there seems to be a relationship there with Xbox. So there's definitely some working relationship between Nordisk and Xbox, so that's good to see. If they want to bring it to Game Pass, that'd be great. Just don't mess with the formula. Let Supermassive do what they do. They're master classes in creating horror adventures. I absolutely adored The Quarry. I absolutely adored Until Dawn. I heard Dark Pictures Anthology was a blast. I still have yet to play that. That'll probably be something that's going to sit on my backlog for a bit, but I'm definitely going to get to it. But yeah, not much to say here because I don't really know much about Nordisk, and I don't think many people do.
No, when I saw this, my initial reaction was, "Who?" Like
Seems
genuinely
like a very small team. Yeah.
No, I was looking up the rest of the studios in their team for the story, and I was like, I don't know a single person in here except Avalanche, and I was
Is
like,
Nordisk a subsidiary of something
of
else?
Nordisk Films. They're like they're a
Danish
European
film
company.
studio.
Yeah. I have no idea who they are. They're apparently investing in gaming more though, because Avalanche was their biggest studio until now, where they get Supermassive, and I think this is a weird acquisition because in my mind, I think Sony really missed a chance here with Supermassive. They should have got them after Until Dawn. I honestly don't know why they didn't snatch them up, because Until Dawn was such a critical and like commercial success for them. I've never heard anyone speak poorly of
The
Until
only
Dawn.
thing that I can think of is that Supermassive Games weren't wanting to sell at that point. Maybe they wanted to pump out more projects, because I'm telling you, they probably could have gotten a good price after releasing Until Dawn, just
Well,
showing the caliber of game that they could put out.
Well, we know the Quarry was originally supposed to be a Google Stadia game.
Right.
So, and the Dark Pictures anthology games have been hit or miss depending on who you ask. I played Man
Right.
of Medan. It was fine. I've heard the ones after that are much better, but I haven't gotten around to them. And it is kind of that reception where it's like, I don't really know if they're maybe they were a one-hit wonder. The Quarry kind of disproves that because I've
Yeah.
heard fantastic things about the Quarry. I can't wait to check that one out. I probably should have got it on sale when it was I think it was like half off right now when the Amazon Prime.
Oh,
But
that's a good deal, Kevin.
I
Come on, how you
know,
missed
I
that?
know. Yeah, so I didn't know anything about Nordisk. I was very confused. I think that from all the press releases I've seen, Nordisk believes in this team because this was something where they'd invested in them already. They owned 30%, and now they've just invested more and got 100% of the company. So this wasn't like a surprise. They probably saw this coming a while. Clearly the Quarry success probably has something to do with it. They're like, oh, this is a proven team now. Let's invest in them.
Like I said, as long as they respect the creative process, as long as they don't mess with the formula that studio is doing, all the power to them. I hope they make some money.
Yeah, no, for sure. They did say that they were going to give them like more resources and try to expand the
Yeah,
team. So maybe the
that's
Dark
awesome.
Pictures games quality improves. They could come out at a faster rate if they can manage that. They can
I
develop
would
two
like
things.
I would like to see Supermassive stick with one-off titles like The Quarry, like Until Dawn. I think that's where they really shine, where they just pinpoint an individual story that goes through a night, maybe a week or something like that, and they just tell a story of a group of people. I absolutely love the formula of their
You know
games.
what's weird is the Dark Pictures anthology is separate stories.
Is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
None of them are interconnected. They're just in a collection of games. None of them like are the same thing. They don't have the same enemy in any of them. I have no idea why they've like marketed it as like
That's
this is
weird.
a collection of things. You just have this the thing that connects them really is like this overarching narrator. You basically have this character that is telling you the story, and occasionally they'll flash back to him and he'll like give you like a little creepy monologue speech.
Yeah.
But besides that, there's nothing really connecting the game.
That actually makes me want to get them even more now. That might speed up the process here, Kevin.
They were on Game Pass. One of them, Man of Medan, was on Game Pass.
Yeah, one of them was for a while, but it's not on there anymore.
I know two of them are on PS Plus, so maybe when you get your PlayStation 5.
One day.
Yeah, one day. Shout out Sean Capri in the chat. What up,
You're
Sean?
and Happy Cloud Gamers here. Hell yeah.
If anyone's listening, Ethan he's over here. Ethan did a fantastic one-on-one discussion with our friend Sean Capri over on We the Gamercast. You can find that at Carpool Gaming or We the Gamercast. Great discussion. Go over there, check it out. Support Sean, support Carpool
Super
Gaming.
fun. Hell yeah.
Love it over there. Also, shout out Happy Cloud Gamer for a second coming by. Says, hello. Okay, cool news. Here comes the multi-versus Nintendo did just buy a movie, and I don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Nintendo bought something.
Yeah, Nintendo bought a movie studio. I don't know. But we'll move on to this one's for me. I'm straight up. This next story is only for me.
You take it away.
Because according to a quote trusted reset era insider Nate Drake, apparently Xbox and Bethesda. I don't know why I put Bethesda. A new Banjo game is in development. The info was corroborated apparently by Spanish Insider. I'm doing air quotes for any
Bethesda
audio
is
listeners.
making the next Banjo game.
I'm
Kevin,
doing air
confirmed.
quotes. Ecstasis apparently is the Spanish insider that corroborated this, that a Banjo game is indeed coming, but that's all they've said. The insider does mention that Sackboy developer Sumo Digital could be making the game. And let me tell you, if Sumo Digital is making the game, I'm going to freak out because Sackboy is amazing. The absolute quality on display in that game, it's one of the best 3D platformers I've played. The co-op is implemented perfectly. The level design is immaculate. They have levels, and I think Rayman did this, but it's even better when you can get the you can get the licensed music because obviously Sony funded this game, but
Yeah.
they have things like Uptown Funk and Toxic. So they have
That sounds
levels.
cool.
They have levels where you like jump to the beat. Obviously, we're not going to see that
Like a
with
rhythm
Banjo.
game,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, completely different type of game, but it just shows you like they can make creative and like
Mhm.
fun games, which is exactly what Banjo needs to kind of get the kid-friendly revival going. I don't I don't expect this to be real because the universe hates me and they never want Banjo to exist again, but I am fully on board with this.
Look, I absolutely hope it's true. I mean, that would be amazing. Just you talking about it got me hype about it, but I don't know. There's just not enough here. It sounds like two people that just said, "Yeah, they're making it," but I've never heard of them. Maybe somebody can correct me. Maybe they've had some predictions right in the past. Maybe they actually are good insiders. But this whole rumor mill culture, it's kind of seems a little sleazy to me. Some insider posts something on Twitter, and then every video game journalist website posts a clickbait article that gets a bunch of clicks, and then nobody remembers it, and we all forget about it. It happens a lot. So we'll see if it fleshes out. And even if it is, like a lot of times these rumors are years out from actually being officially announced. So, this
Mhm.
this could be happening, during the Game Awards, or it could be happening in 2026. Who knows?
As I've said many times, if we're live reacting and Banjo-Kazooie comes on the screen, I'm going to break down. You're going to hear me scream. You're going to hear me throw
I'm
things.
excited for it, Kevin. I'm
All right.
excited for it.
The day it happens, you might have some tears. Okay. It's
I'm
like
going to
getting
be here
emotional
for
now.
you. I'm going to be here for you.
Um, it's Kyle Correct's Happy Cloud Gamers tweet, which or text, which was a little thing. He says Nintendo bought an animation studio and it's going to be rebranded Nintendo Animation.
They're going to make more movies. They're going to
Great.
make more movies. Every
Can't-
IP in Nintendo is going to be a movie. Just watch. It's going to be
I
crazy.
can't wait for Chris Pratt to play Min Min in Arms. I don't know why I went there. That's the first Nintendo IP I could think of.
That's the first.
The Inkling from Splatoon. Well, he's already playing Mario, and they have Donkey. I was gonna say Donkey Kong, but Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong.
Give me a live action Metroid. Give me a
with
live action
Chris
Samus
Pratt.
with Chris Pratt. No, don't do that. But
All
give
right.
me the Metroid.
Let's move on to our final story of the day, Ethan, and that is some news about Skate 4, which is officially just being called Skate. The developer has revealed that the game will simply be titled Skate because it's a new platform. They said it's not a remake, it's not a reboot, it's a new platform that they're going to continuously build upon. It will be free to play on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. They've also confirmed the game will have crossplay and cross progression. They did confirm it will have microtransactions, as is the case with many free to play games, but it's not going to be pay to win. No paywalls for map content, no loot boxes or gameplay advantages. So, Ethan, are you a Skate fan? What does this do for you?
I am a fan of Skate, but this isn't going to be Skate. And I don't think anybody should expect this to be Skate. That's probably why they renamed it from Skate 4 to just Skate, because they knew they'd be crucified if they actually put Skate 4 on here, trying to hint that it's anything close to the original Skate games. This seems like going to be a free to play microtransaction riddled game. I don't know how else to say it. It might be fun for what it is. But if you're a fan of Skate, like the original games, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't, invest too much in this. I wouldn't get excited about it because it's probably going to be kind of a shallow and hollow rendition of what Skate was, which is honestly what a lot of free to play games are nowadays.
It's interesting because I think being free to play opens it up to being able to be more successful, right? I don't think Skate for me was ever a game that I was going to buy. I never played the other Skates, and that's because I was more of like I played all the Tony Hawk games. I love Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That was my jam. But when Skate came around, it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I got to pick that up. I was more like, where's the next Tony Hawk game? So this for me going free to play actually entices me more to be able to try this game out. And I think what they've said here for the microtransactions, great. All that stuff should not be in a game like this. You shouldn't have to pay for progression. You shouldn't lock off content.
Yeah, that should go without saying.
Yeah, which, well, they should, but the fact that they had to say it shows that it doesn't. But look at what Fall Guys being free to play has done for it, right?
Yeah.
Fall Guys now has over 50 million players, they said. It was 20 and then the week 50 million.
Look, I'm not saying that it's going to be bad because it's free to play. I'm just saying don't expect this to be, the skate that you grew up with, the skate that you knew from back on the 360 or the PlayStation 3. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a different thing. I think we did, and I do agree with you. Tony Hawk is definitely the superior skating video game, but in terms of skate alone, this was a really good alternative, and it was a really fun game in and of itself. But this is just going to be a whole new thing. So if you're like a super fan of the old skate games, don't be surprised if you're disappointed, in this, because it is going to be free to play, microtransactions. It's probably gonna have completely different gameplay because it's free to play, and they're going to encourage you to do microtransactions and stuff like that. I don't know what it's going to be.
I do wonder what the gameplay loop looks
That's
like.
what I wondered too. Are we going to have online only things going on, or are we going to have just a single player free to play skate game that you
I
can
don't
play
know.
multiplayer?
What were the original skate games like? Like in my mind, they're single player, like you're a skater trying to grow your
I mean,
career.
yeah, they were kind of like the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games.
Okay, that's what I
They were
thought.
kind of the same thing, different mechanics, here and there, different graphics, different stuff going on. But I mean, essentially at the core, they were both kind of the same game. You just get a skateboard and you play single player. I think I don't remember if you could play multiplayer. I never played multiplayer. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could have played multiplayer, but it probably wasn't past just having a buddy join a lobby and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I want to know what the gameplay loop is. What makes microtransactions worth it or even necessary? Why is it free to play? I really,
Right.
because to me, it's looking more like EA's kind of pushing this on, like how they do with most games, right? Like we need some way to monetize it. We need
Yeah,
it's our model.
like you look at the free to play games now, like Fortnite or like Fall Guys. I mean, these are all online only games.
They have a
You just
reason to
jump
be.
in and you play with a bunch of people, and
Hmm.
it's not really super complicated gameplay loops and stuff like that, like you would with a single player game. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to try and do with this.
What if this is you drop into a giant world with other skaters? Like you're able to interact with them, like skate with them, like have
Like an
some
MMO?
something. I'm picturing like a giant skate park, obviously, like
Yeah.
half pipes and like you
Oh, you
go
know what?
skating
It
with your
could be
friends.
like, what's that Ubisoft title that just came out that was all about extreme
Riders
sports?
Republic.
Riders Republic. Now you had to pay for Riders Republic, but I'm wondering if this is going to be a Riders Republic type game just with skateboarding in general. That actually sounds like be kind of fun. I'd
Hmm.
probably jump into that. That sounds like something that I could get behind.
Yeah, free to play, certainly
Yeah.
something you can get behind. I'm 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 excited to see more. Obviously, I think they're still pretty far away. I think we got some pre-alpha
Yeah.
footage, so it's probably 2 more years, probably at least until we get this game. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was very interesting. I will just note, nothing to do with this story, but Multiverses open beta in next week if you get a Twitch drop. Otherwise, 2 weeks for the open beta, and that's also free to play with microtransactions. And that game I'm going to play a lot of. Hopefully, it's good.
It's on all the systems, right?
Cross play and cross progression, as far as I know.
All right, we're playing, Kevin. Free to play. I'll play it with you.
It's 2v2, so I'm down with that.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah, for sure. But Taylor too. I'm gonna play with Taylor, my Smash Bro, but my Tom and Jerry is gonna be nasty. That's all I'm saying. Not even kidding, bro. Not even kidding.
I'm excited.
As soon as I see two characters together, I'm like, that's who I'm playing.
Yeah.
That's my character. I don't get. You can have your Batman. You can have your Wonder Woman. You can have your
Love your ice climbers.
Adventure Time character. Who I don't even know who these people are.
Adventure Time is great, Kevin.
I don't even know what that is. I don't even know.
Slander it before you see it. All right.
What is
Go watch some
Adventure
Adventure
Time?
Time. It's a great, great cartoon, Kevin.
You know what's great, Ethan?
What's that?
This show. I had a really good time.
Yeah, it was fun.
Where can people find you if they want more?
They can find me at WhiteCedar1 on Twitter and Gravy3448 on Xbox.
And you can find me at the Muffin Mon. It's a 1-7 I and an 0-7 A. Follow us at Save Game Media because, as I say every week, Twitter hates us. And by every week, I mean the last 2 weeks because it's literally just happened. So at Save Game Media, come over, follow us, stay up to date with all of our latest. If you want everything early, as I said, patreon.com/Save the Game Media. You can get all of our shows, No Limits, Project XTalk, frame by frame, and I Hate My Friends 2-day early access if you sign up at the appropriate tier. But choose the one that's right for you. We're grateful for all your support. Until next time, we'll see you. Goodbye.